Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the 6DOF Reviews podcast. Cast. What an exciting day for you, sweet viewer, because you get to hear from me while I am coming up on a fever. That's right. I'm in the process of getting sick, and I can't guarantee that I will make sense for the entire duration of this podcast. With me today is somebody who has just come out of the other side of their own illness. The one, the only, Sweet Omar Kamal. How are you?
I am great. I wasn't so good during the weekend. Yeah, I had a sore throat and a heavy head, but I'm good now. I'm fine. Vitamin C, ginger, honey, tea.
You all heard him call me honey, everybody. That's very sweet. That's very sweet of you. This is the real reason, actually, that episode 9 wasn't brought to you sort of straight after the Behemoth impressions video, which you should watch if you haven't already watched, or hang about. We might talk about it. But yes, time was not our friend, and also poor Sweet Omar was ill. So we had to let him recover so that he could sing his dulcet songs to you today. Speaking of, actually, that would have been a great segue if we were covering Songbird, but we're not. So, what a wasted opportunity.
But I have played it. I can sneak in a little bit about it. I have played it.
All right. Well, this is an action-packed episode because we're trying to squeeze in the content that we would have done across 2. And last week and this week have seen some really interesting games launched. So, do you remember, Captain Goldfish, which are the 4 that we settled on for this week?
You're testing me here. I just came out of a cold. Like I do know that we said we talk about Behemoth, which is between our impressions video and I suppose a forthcoming review. But we also were talking about Action Hero, which I'm always tempted to call The Last Action Hero just because of that old Schwarzenegger movie that was far better than it had any right to be. That's it. I remember 2. You're gonna have to fill in the rest.
Well, the one that at least one of our sweet viewers keeps mentioning in every other video that we do.
Meow. Meow. Meow.
I am cat.
I am cat.
I
you
am
are cat. I am cat.
I am cat.
All right, we are cat. We've changed the name. I am cat. We'll get a good talking to or a good talking about. And then the 4th and final one that we chose to talk about. I'm not stalling because it's my turn to be the goldfish man. I texted to you before and I was like, we're going to do Behemoth. We're going to do I Am Cat. We're going to do Action Hero. I didn't have to look. You saw I didn't look. Home Sports. Home Sports is the other one that we are going to do. And if we weren't going to run out of time, I would just sing a whole song that I wrote about resolution games. I'd just make it up on spot. Resolution games. Oh, I love you.
If we're supposed to be catching up on 2 weeks worth, how's it only 4 titles? And why isn't Songbird one of them if I've played a little bit of it?
Because we've got an hour. We have 1 hour, and Songbird is like
succinct and concise.
I intend to talk about Behemoth for 49 fucking minutes. I love that game, and you can't shut me up.
We'll see how it goes.
And on that note, shall we talk about games? Well, sweet viewer, we have released a 16-minute video giving you my first impressions on Behemoth. Omar is working on a full review. I would love to review it, but my family arrived from the other side of the world like now and tomorrow, and I'm not going to get to finish the game this side of Christmas probably. I want to review it. So we've got the impressions video, we've got the review, and Omar very much is like, but so why would we need to talk about it in the podcast? I don't think I'm inaccurately misquoting you there. And the reason is because I love it and I want to talk about it. This is the thing. So it was my impressions based on an hour and 20 minutes. So the footage was kind of sprinkled through the first that long. Since then, I'm now about 4 hours in. My viewpoint on it has evolved, as you would imagine, and it has remained positive. And again, I don't want to just spend all this time repeating myself. Like it still has that Saints and Sinners feel that I think is really notable about it, and that is a good thing. There is some jank, but I was thinking about this before we came on to record, that I would consider worth noting. I've only had in 4 hours 4 individual instances of jank that occurred, and outside of that, it's actually played incredibly smoothly for me. And that's before the day 7 patch, which is scheduled to go live today, tomorrow-ish, give or take. I don't want to have to count.
Yeah, and it's made me think that I shouldn't actually write the review and record it before the patch comes out, because it's a 7-day patch. It's not like it's months away. It should be out like maybe by the time anybody's watching this. So I figure, see how the patch changes things.
You could stand.
I've had a complete crash once, but otherwise, like you said, a little bit of jank here and there, unnecessary pop-ins sometimes when things are pretty close and you don't expect them to pop in. But no, generally speaking, it hasn't been as bug-ridden as one could have feared.
Yeah, and I think like those little things that you're talking about, I'm not even counting those. Like, yeah, I've seen a few little bits of that, but because I'm enjoying it so much, I am so immersed in it that I'm kind of a bit more forgiving of it. But I'm talking about like there was one battle that I was finding quite difficult. Like you go in and there's these 2 armored guys with giant axes, and I died a couple of times, and then I went back in, and one of them fell forward into some spikes and died. And I was like, that's hilarious.
Maybe it was a homage to Bone Lab.
It was. If only we could get that the music again. But other than something like that, like there was one point during the second Behemoth battle where like it was really like I was trying to climb something and it was really freaking out. Like the wall was in heavy shimmery shaking mode.
Yeah.
But other than that
happened during the battle of the first Behemoth too. Yeah.
But I think that's about it. And for the most part, other than that, it's been really, really solid. So I guess because I don't want to give away too much of what's going to happen in the main review, and we've already done some of it, I think the only things I really wanted to say is if you're still on the fence and you're still waiting for our full review, I can really say that from 4 hours in now, this of the big 3, and I think this maybe is what we should talk about, but this of the big 3 that have come out is definitely my personal favorite of them. I'm really, really loving it. The combat initially, I was a bit worried. Like it is kind of a bit slow. You're not fighting multiple guys like you do in Asgard's Wrath. It's really squaring off against one opponent, maybe 2. Like, you've got an archer over there who's hammering you with arrows while you're sword fighting the big armored axe guy. I've found, and today was a real click moment for me. I played the arena mode I had 10 minutes free and I just wanted to get back into it. And it really started to click with me, the parrying, the using the power up and really starting to use all of the different skill sets that you unlock over time. And fine, I didn't get that far. I think I only got up to wave 5, but it really started to feel like everybody, that I'm all about combat. Like it definitely now is going to make my top 10 combat experiences. Like it's really, I can start to feel like using the grapple hook to put somebody off balance so that you can get behind their shield and things like that. There's really nice touches. Mastering that. Oh, sorry, you wanted to say?
No, I want to say, like, even in the main campaign, I have had situations where I'm fighting like maybe 2 or 3 guys with axes or swords, plus there's like at the same time 2 or 3 archers aiming at me. So I would say a little more than what you sort of indicated now.
But I think like, so in those situations, it's like the second guy politely waits for his turn. They're there and you've got to kind of keep your head on a swivel. You've got to do that thing. But generally speaking, they're not both. It's not like if you've played the
archers are aiming at you while you're fighting one guy, but the other guy is kind of holding back a little, waiting for it to clear a little bit. Yes, that's true. It doesn't.
That tends to be the dichotomy of the combat is keeping the archers off balance while you focus on the person who's right in front of you, and just keeping an eye for where that other person is. Whereas if you play until you fall, not after the fall, until you fall, they will attack you from all sides. Like they'll circle around you and you'll have to sort of keep an eye. That, I think, by the way, spoiler alert, I think that makes the number 10 slot on my combat experiences. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So anyway, so there's all of that. The combat is really starting to work for me, and it's making the gameplay really like I'm quite happy with it. the puzzles are practically non-existent, and this is where it falls back from Asgard's Wrath 2, because it's got a similar vibe just in terms of like grand scale fantasy adventure, but all the puzzles are, 4 hours in, they're all about how do I get that box from there to there,
and it's not
that's the only
particularly challenging. Yeah,
no. So that, like, don't think about it like a spatial puzzler. It's definitely not up there with the likes of Asgard's Wrath 2 on that level. But what it does have, and I cannot express how much I have enjoyed the second Behemoth battle. And again, Omar and I, we discussed it. Omar's impression was not the same as mine, and that's absolutely fine. And I want Omar definitely to be able to tell you his. But first, can I just tell you mine? Can I tell you? I'm not asking you permission. I'm asking them. Hi, sweet viewer. So basically, I don't want to give too much away, but it is. How much can I do without making this?
It's very difficult to discuss it without giving a little bit away. I mean,
yeah. So Behemoth as a game, you would probably understand is giant creatures, and in order to kill the giant creatures, oftentimes you have to scale the giant creature. Like this is a thing. I don't think I'm giving too much away. So the second Behemoth is like that, and you do find yourself upon it at a point. It is not the entirety of it, but you find yourself upon it. And the way in which that segment of that boss battle was meted out, and I'll look it up as we get to the end, but one of our viewers, I'm going to say Corvorn, just as a guess, or Lord Val, asked us, what is your favorite boss battle? And you asked us that in the last episode, and I don't know what I would have said back then, but now today, the second Behemoth in Behemoth, hands down 100% my favorite boss battle of pretty much all time. I got out of it and my heart was pumping and I was thrilled. I wanted to go back and do it again. And I was saying to Omar my thoughts and like, this is great. And this particular thing and this. And there's even a point in it where I ignored the easy mechanics in order to do something just for the role play of it, because I was so invested in this hero power fantasy that instead of pressing the button that does the thing, I did it with my arms and I was like, yes, I am the mightiest warrior. And so without going into this for way too long, I think that's the big thing I wanted to come back and say. 4 hours in, my concerns that the combat would be getting boring by now have proven to be incorrect. I'm really enjoying the combat. My concerns that the Behemoth battles would be boring. Oh, okay. Sorry. And now I'm going to put Omar. Could you tell us what you think about Behemoth? And I'm going to be right back.
Okay. So generally speaking, I was a little less impressed with the second Behemoth battle or boss battle than Pete was. Yes, what I said to him at some point is that I think it parses better than it plays, which is to say that when you think about the scope of it, it is quite epic. It's got a great setting. The boss, the Behemoth himself or itself is pretty impressive. Scaling it, like Pete was saying, is unlike the first one for reasons that are probably vaguely spoilerish to discuss, so we won't. But the setting is epic. If I were to write down a graphic description of how it goes, that battle, it would sound absolutely spectacular. It's a epic fantasy blockbuster kind of setting. Where I think it falls down a little, where it doesn't quite achieve that, is that first of all, it feels it's a little bit contrived and scripted in the sense that, okay, you have to do this, then you sort of have to do this. The way you're doing this is sort of dictated to some extent. You have these platforms that sort of show up, and it's like, why are these platforms on this Behemoth, and why do they come down at this point in time? I don't know. Why? So that you can kill the Behemoth and you can get to that point where you can kill the Behemoth. So it's contrived in that sense. And yes, there is a certain amount of jank. Sometimes the movements aren't doing what you expect. Maybe scaling the Behemoth works at certain angles, but not at other angles, despite you thinking that it should. So if you're I think the big difference between my experience and Pete's is that Pete just got carried away. He got carried away by the epic scale of it, by the idea of it. The idea of the battle is really quite spectacular. Whereas I found that the mechanics and the contrivances and added with a little bit of jank in there, and this, the scripted parts of it made me feel that it made me feel that the gameplay part of it didn't feel as good as what the game wanted me to feel. It didn't rise to what the game was hoping that I would feel. It presented, again, like I said, it parsed better than it played. It parses excellently. It's just the gameplay doesn't feel as good as I imagined something like that could feel. So that's essentially the difference that I guess, in how I perceived the second Behemoth battle as compared to how Pete felt about it.
Which is really interesting because we're playing the same game. It's set up the same way. I've come out absolutely buzzing, and you less so. And I think that's
and I said I don't. It's not that I don't like. I see where you're coming from. The setting of it and the way that it's designed, the battle, it is epic. There is an epic, grand scale to it. And if I was carried away enough, maybe not to notice the things that I was noticing, it would do that. It would feel absolutely epic and grand, and it would be one of the greatest VR experiences that I've probably had. But noticing those things made me feel that, it doesn't feel like how I want this design to feel.
And isn't that, again, I find that really interesting. And one of the things that I'll reference is around this time last year, we were playing Arizona Sunshine 2. And you and I were both caught up in it. In that same, like, I've now gone back and played it, and I still love it, but I now see the jank. That it was probably there, but I was so swept up in the story and the emotion and the action and the gunplay. And it was actually Doc who said, like, yeah, I get it. It's good, but you're blind to the things because of the experience you're having. And I was like, no, shut up. You're wrong. But
I would also argue that if a game delivers an experience good enough to blind you to the jank, that in and of itself is a success.
And that's the point that I'm making, because here for me, I was aware of the jank. Like I was technically aware of it, but I was having so much fun. I was so deeply immersed in it that I didn't care. Like, I honest to God didn't care.
Yeah.
One of the bits where like the screen was really bugging out was in this battle, but I didn't care. I just kind of looked somewhere else because I was like, no, you're not ruining this for me. And I climbed and I climbed. So there you go. I think that's a fair, quick summary of Behemoth so that we don't go over it. But I could talk to you all day about this. And I think an interesting topic of conversation would be for us to take our big three, because last year's big three, we were almost identically aligned. Like that.
Yeah, this time is different. It's not the top of the big three for me.
Whereas this year, the big three, I think we're quite topsy-turvy around them, actually. I think my best and your best, we haven't really had this conversation, but I think middle place is middle, and we would flip our 1 and 3 around. Anyway, possibly. So that is Behemoth. Those of you who have not played it, I strongly recommend you do. Those of you who are waiting for our full review, I will let Omar get to that in his own good time. I sadly will not be able to review it myself because of family commitments, but at 4 hours, I would give my gut score is an 8.5 or a 9, probably leaning more towards the 9. Like, I really am enjoying it. But that's a gut score, not our official score.
Yeah, I think... again, even though I understand where you're coming from, I think mine will end up being a little bit different, let's say.
Yeah, and so be it. So where should we go to now? Because I've played all of the games that we're talking about enough that I could lead on them, but I want you to lead on one. Which one do you want to lead on?
What are we talking about again? We've got Action Hero, we've got I Am Cat, which I have no experience with, and what was what else?
Home
was
Sports.
Home sports. Home sports. Are we going to try to cover Songbird a little bit, or not really?
You seem to really want to. I haven't played it at all, but if you
not
like
really,
it,
I'm just saying. trying to make it a little more dense. But okay, let's talk about home sports first, I suppose. But you're going to have to help me out on this one with your feedback because I haven't played it that extensively. But home sports, I don't know if they're marketing it this way, but they're definitely presenting it that way when you run the game. It's Wii Sports. There's no escaping that. If you've played Wii Sports back in the day, with all the wiggle fest that it was, and it's kind of weird when you reminisce about it because Wii Sports, it did better for the Wii than most other games did, in the sense that the wiggle controls never really worked well. And I remember having to buy that extra dongle that you put at the base of the Wii controller that was supposed to make it more accurate, but it didn't really do much. The fact is, the wiggle controls were very random, but it worked for Wii Sports. Wii Sports was designed well enough to make them work. Here we have home sports with the benefit of remarkably advanced VR controllers, so everything is spot on in terms of control. Any leeway that the game provides, it's providing for accessibility's purposes. It doesn't want to make things too difficult, it's just trying to make things fun. And everything about it, the presentation, the bubbly menus, the characters, the colorful things, even the white menu background, it's basically trying to tell you, look, Wii Sports. It's communicating that
hard.
What's that?
It's giving those vibes.
It's giving those vibes hard, and there's no way in hell that it's accidental. It can't be accidental. So it's doing it very much on purpose. You've got, I can't remember what are the games. I've tried them all, but I can't remember. There's bowling. There's badminton. Badminton. There's what? There's like a pickleball sort of thing.
Pickleball.
And I'm missing something.
Two. The other is there's ice hockey, which is it's not full ice hockey. It's essentially, if you've played air hockey, that sort of thing, but with an actual hockey stick. It's okay. Imagine if you're standing on an air hockey table with an ice hockey stick, but you don't skate around and move. And the other one is, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents worth in, a rather disappointing attempt at mini golf.
Okay, I haven't tried the mini golf and I haven't tried the hockey. The pickleball, it felt okay, but it's not going to be as good as the other pickleball games that are dedicated to pickleball. And I will say the same thing for bowling. Does it feel okay? Yeah, it's fun, it's casual, it feels okay, but it's really a compilation kind of package, and it's built that way and it's minded that way. There's not a lot of particular depth to any of the games involved there. They're all done in a bubbly, friendly, family sort of fun way that's easy for children to play, easy for adults to enjoy. I mean, the graphics are great. The sound effects are cool. It's very well polished. I'll give it that. In terms of polish, good job. All the corners are rounded. All the sound effects are there. There's nothing. It doesn't feel sloppy in any way.
Resolution games don't do sloppy, man.
What's that?
Resolution games don't do sloppy. That's one.
No, they don't do sloppy. Fair enough. But like, for example, I'd rather play Racket Club than play, pickleball in home sports. I'd rather play one of the bowling games, Forever Bowling, for example, than I would the bowling game. It's a compilation sort of package. If you don't want to go and buy separate sort of sports, and if you're doing it as a family entertainment thing, to play with the kids and whatever, maybe it'll make for a decent package. Again, there's nothing about it that's bad as such. It's just a purposely shallow version of each of those games. I can say, basically, that's my experience with it.
100% agree. It is. Do you know what this one is? This is the one that sells the second headset, is what it is. This isn't why you buy a Quest 3 or a Quest 3S, but this is why you buy another one. I thought Spatial Ops did that. Well, so this is where resolution games, like they've got such a great suite of games, but from a parent point of view, and I'm going to say I'm a middle-class American parent, and I say American purely because we've discussed this before. Homes tend to be bigger in America. It's a little bit difficult in teeny tiny London houses, but I've got a bit of money. I like to spoil my kids at Christmas. I've got a good size house. What am I going to do? Oh, I've heard about this quest. That looks great. I'll get 2. We can all play together. Spatial Ops is one of the games that's up there for this, and Home Sports is as well. When we last spoke, and we spoke about Spatial Ops, and I said this and another game would be the ones like I would just send my kids off to play. This is what I was talking about. So exactly as Omar said, like it's not as good as any of the standalone iterations of any of these games. So if you've got more money, then fine, buy Walkabout, definitely. Buy Racket Club, definitely. Like go out and pick up each one of those and spend £100 and have 5 different games, or spend, what is it, £20? I actually don't know. Sorry, everybody, I didn't look at the price. Spend whatever they're charging for this. And if you've got kids, again, I'm going to give you an age range. I know 8 is below the threshold for meta, but in that 8 to 14 sort of market, if both of your kids or you've got multiple kids or they have their friends over, that's the sweet spot for this. Badminton is so forgiving. Like it's so easy just to keep a rally going and have that fun. Bowling automatically comes with the bumpers up. You have to manually take them down.
Yeah, you have to manually put them down.
They know who their market is, and it is there for family fun. Family game nights done in a different way. Swap the headsets. Like I said, this is the game that you buy, or this is within the suite of games that you buy your second headset for, to turn it into something you do together with your family. I think the Forever brand has really missed a trick. And I think, so everybody, I think it was New Year's Eve a couple of years ago. I mean, let's say 2 years ago, I got tonsillitis. I got sick, bedridden, couldn't move. Everyone went out New Year's Eve by myself. Boo-hoo-hoo. I thought, I know, I'll try and do a impressions video of Forever Pool, which had just come out around that time. Never saw the light of the day because the audio on that one with me with tonsillitis was disgusting. So in that video, I remember 2 years ago specifically saying, if they could have a portal, like a hub world, where you could walk through a door to go into all of their different games, and they bundled it so that you got heavy discount the more you bought, that would be, that would be system selling for this use case. Now Resolution Games has basically trumped them and gone, okay, here we go. The miniature golf, I thought it was terrible. Like it was one of the first times I've played something from Resolution Games and been like, oh, really? Like, I really thought it was bad. Everything else was fine. Like the hockey game. Sorry, this is the other point. Fever. The other point that I wanted to make. It's annoyingly Quest 3 exclusive because it's an MR game. They make you play it in MR, but it's weird because only the front part is MR. So the front part is VR and you exist in an MR world. So I guess it's designed so that little kids don't go tearing around and smashing into walls and breaking controllers and whatnot. But because I don't have 2 next-gen MR devices, I've not been able to play this against my kids. But I tell you what, so effective is it in what it does that between this and Spatial Ops, I have been kicking around when the Black Friday sales were happening. And you could get a 3S for 200 and something.
They had an incredible deal. I really wanted to ask the viewers if anybody got on board with this deal, because basically you ended up getting a Quest 2 for what amounts to less than $200 because you paid $300. A Quest 3S. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
a Quest 3S. You basically paid $300, which is the RRP, but Amazon gave you a $100 credit, and you still got Batman for free, and you also got the MetaQuest Plus package. That was, honestly, if anybody was vaguely interested in buying a VR headset, this was the sweetest deal you're going to get. You're essentially paying $200, and you're getting Batman Arkham Asylum, which means the headset is kind of costing you $150 for a mixed reality headset.
I did all of that mental gymnastics.
I've got
4 headsets, mind you, 4 headsets, and my wife like, why do you need so many headsets? Like, why?
And you're still thinking it's such a good deal.
Well, it's a good deal, and I'm also thinking to myself. So we had we live in England, but we celebrate Thanksgiving. We had a bunch of people over to do a big Thanksgiving thing recently, and I brought the headsets out, and I got a couple of the kids. Like there was 8 kids in the house, and I got them playing stuff together. Now, Cookout, A Sandwich Tale, another Resolution Games game, was the one that they like an hour, like my turn, and because that one
true.
actually works on all 4 headsets. Some poor kid got the Brick Quest one that they're like, it hurts. But they could actually play it together. And watching that, and then knowing that the big sale sort of happened just after that, and I'm thinking like, oh, when their friends come over and they could play this, like, Daddy, I'm bored. It's like, look, I've got no time. Why don't you both grab a headset and play badminton against each other? And it's so well crafted for that age group. Like I said, super forgiving, super like it's you can just rally against it for ages. There are AI opponents that you can practice against, or you can play against your mates. And to be honest with you, I think it's remarkable for its use case. I wouldn't say if you're a grown person who plays by themselves, there's nothing there for you. This is not for you. But for any of these family style occasions, or for kids who like, there is an online competitive mode as well. That's where it's at, and it's really good. Like, it is Wii Sports for the Quest.
Fair.
Now, should we brush our whiskers, or should we get ready for action?
I think you should hit us with some action.
Action. Very good. So I'm going to be a little bit facetious to begin, and then I'm going to do this properly, but I'm going to ask you to bear with me. So the next game I would like to talk to you about is Super Hot 2, the quest for more Super Hots. It's only a little bit facetious. So Action Hero is the latest game from Fast Travel Games. It is being touted by them as the spiritual successor to Super Hot. So it is in their broad
it's in the marketing.
Spiritual successor is what they're saying. Super Hot, for those of you who don't know, is an incredibly popular game that has been out for years on flat screen and is broadly understood to be one of the best iterations of a like welcome to VR. This will show you the possibilities of this new medium.
And it has mysteriously not had any sequel or extra DLCs, which is very odd. I do not understand how there was a complete lack of follow-up to literally one of the best received games in VR. It makes no sense to me. I will never get it unless the developers just, made their money, retired, went off somewhere, and they're having a great time sitting on a beach and they don't care. I have no clue.
No, neither do I, but I wouldn't be surprised. And this is pure guesswork here. But if Fast Travel Games maybe had approached them and said, look, can we buy the rights to do a second? And they said no, but I tell you what, for a bit of money, we won't complain if you completely copy our game. Because in fairness, viewer, my first impression when I played Action Hero was that this is not inspired by. This is not in honor of, this is not an homage towards. This is a direct copy of Super Hot in terms of gameplay mechanics. There are not improvements, embellishments, new things. Well, not really. It is the same game, but remastered is what I would say.
Well, so more scope, more colors.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I say remastered, like the graphical style, the concept, that like the setting that they put you in is where we start to get our variances that justify it being its own game.
But gameplay and mechanics, it's identical. It's the same game.
It's identical. So what you've got is, let's talk Super Hot really quickly, and then we'll go into Action Hero. So if you're one of the few people who doesn't know what Super Hot is, it is small action vignettes that occur where time only moves when you do. It's a spatial puzzle game, effectively. Look at your combat situation and work out what is the safest route, what is the quickest route, depending on how you want to play it. So it's a game that's very much built for repetition based on speed running. It's not like you play each vignette once and go, cool, I've now completed the game. That's not what the experience is about. It's about going back in and perfecting it. It's almost like a dance, but it is a deliberate dance that is it is a puzzle game. Like, you have to think your way through how to move through it. So now we have Action Hero. Now, what Action Hero does is takes that exact same mechanic and the exact same everything else, but then says, okay, you're an action hero. You're basically a stuntman. I'm your director. And in this set of vignettes, what you're doing is acting out an action sequence in a movie. And you're clearly on set in a movie. And each of the 5 stories that you do, which is broken down into, God, I'm drawing a blank. Is it 4 or 5 scenes? It's either 4 or 5. But yeah, so let's say there's 4 scenes and there's 5 movies that you do, because I think I remember it being 20. You move your way through each of them, and each of them is made of a sequence of vignettes. So these little vignettes can take as little as like sort of 5 seconds to complete, or 20 or 30 seconds to complete. In theory, ultra gamers could complete Action Hero in under an hour, or like, maybe an hour and a half. That's not how you play this game. The game is about going through it, learning it, getting better and better, and really honing yourself to the point where actually, once you learn these levels, you can do them without having time pause. Like you can, there's a button that you can press that just sets time running at normal speed. And once you've learned them so well, you could just duck, dive, dodge, bang, bash, bosh, 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 and you could go for those time chase leaderboard spots. So the setting is really great. And again, I think I'm one of the only people in the world that didn't like Super Hot. Like, it's not that maybe that's not right. It's not that I didn't like it. I didn't actively dislike it. I just didn't like it, if you know what I mean. I thought it was fine. Prior to playing Action Hero, I got it out again. I hadn't tried it in a while. And I played the first, let's say, 15 of these vignettes. And I put it down. I was like, yeah, it's still what it is. So coming into Action Hero, I was a little bit like, oh, God, I didn't really like the gameplay loop. So am I going to like this? The bright, vibrant worlds that they create, the justification that they give you with the setting, the fact that each of the movies that are quite nicely themed into not necessarily ripping off one particular movie, but maybe genres. Although, there's definitely one point where you could feel like you were Indiana Jones. There is definitely one point where you think you could feel like you were Neo. And in fact, that one, I think it's called The Code, and it looks super Matrixy. That was probably my favorite one. That was really, really cool. What it does well. So if it's a gameplay loop that you like, if you've played Super Hot, if you loved Super Hot and you've always wished for a sequel, just go buy this game. You are going to love it. Like, it is to that same bar of quality with the same mechanics. I think the setting freshens it up a little bit. It gives it something that makes it more fun and more engaging. The graphical style is bright and vibrant and clear, and there's no point where, like, I saw no jank in it whatsoever. Okay. Smooth experience. It's got great audio. You don't really need spatial audio so much because everything's happening so slow around you. But the audio that is there brings you into the world really well. It both brings you into the world of being a stuntman on a set, as well as it teaches you or explains to you what's happening around you. So a barrel exploding in slow motion off to your right will draw your attention. You've just got to be careful not to look too quickly, because if you hear a sound and then flick your head around, what's coming at you is going to come at you really fast. And so you do these really slow, exaggerated movements to look around, and then you kind of map out what you want to do. And then it's really fun at that point to be like, and pew, 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 and see if you can line up all your shots. So I do think that it is a really well-produced, great game worth playing. But in terms of scoring it, in terms of looking at it down the lens of a review, I just don't know how to approach it, because I do think it is a copy. It is a copy of somebody else's game. And there's part of me, like when we do our structured scorings, and Concept is the first one, I'd give it a 4, because you've gone, I will get somebody else's game that they made millions of pounds or dollars.
I'll add color to it.
And I'll add color to it, and I'll have somebody yelling action. And other than that, I've done very little creative conceptual work whatsoever.
It's very true.
Take that out of it, and if you've never played Super Hot, this is a great game. It's so much fun. If you've played Super Hot, you will not be able to play it without thinking, damn, this is a straight rip. It's a 1-for-1. So I still don't know how to score it, and I'm going to try, because for me it's sitting somewhere at a 7.5 or an 8. And I think 8 in terms of that stickiness, that there are some of these vignettes that are really fun to play and go back in and weave through, and there's a lot of reasons to go back in. Despite having different gameplay mechanics than Vendetta Forever, it has a really similar place that it will occupy within your library and within your playtime. For that quick session, just want to get in, do a couple of things that are really, really cool, and then jump back out again. But at the same time, potentially could get lost in for an hour just trying to do that one thing over and over again. So it has that same sense of stickiness to it. Whereas I think Vendetta Forever did something that was new and unique and probably scored better just because it was like, well, here is a way to do short action vignettes in a way I haven't done it before. I'll give you points because this feels great. Like, this feels exciting and new.
And the mechanics are unique. And I mean, the mechanics are really quite unique.
And the way that it moves you through, like the difference between the throwing weapons and the bladed weapons, it changes how you play each of those levels. Whereas everything in Action Hero is really about taking your time, mapping it out, and then putting your ballet into play. It is a delicate bullet ballet.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask Omar, what are your thoughts? How should we score it? What should we do?
No, I mostly agree with just about everything you've said. Felt the same way about it. I do think that even taking away the poverty of concept, I guess that we can call, even taking away that consideration from the score or whatever, I would still rank it somewhat. I would definitely still rank it less than Super Hot. The colorful graphics do. It's a difference, they do give it something that, you didn't have in Super Hot in terms of a style. It's a different stylistic approach. But there's a part of me that feels that the very bare, very monochromatic, whites and reds of Super Hot gave it a visual elegance almost that you don't feel in Action Hero. Action Hero is a gaudier version of that. You've got all the colors, you've got the palette, you've got the laser beams, whatever, the big giant it's more blockbuster-ish, but less elegant and less timeless. There's something. I really think the aesthetic of Super Hot was a large part of its appeal. I remember loving the aesthetics of it, apart from it having the unique mechanics, which were unique, to it at the time. But I really do think that there's something about the aesthetics of it and the just the I don't know something about it that made it feel more elegant, more timeless. It wouldn't age quite as much because the style was so minimal that it becomes a little bit sort of timeless. So I still feel that overall, I would say Super Hot, regardless of concept issues, I still think Super Hot is the superior game in that respect. So if we're talking, I don't disagree with you, but it's somewhere like between a 7 and an 8. I would lean more towards maybe a 7.5 than I would towards an 8, simply because I just feel partly the poverty of concept, but partly it just doesn't have the visual elegance that I felt. There was a sort of symphonic sort of feel to Super Hot that I don't quite get from Action Hero,
But then with Action Hero, like, I agree with what you're saying there. I think, and it's really going to come down to horses for courses. Like, this is like, do you like this flavor ice cream or this flavor ice cream? Absolutely. But it's still ice cream anyway you look at it.
Yeah.
Because there's something about like those early scenes where you're on the top of the train and there are motorcycles coming through midair with explosions happening behind them.
That's spectacular.
Like, that's cool, and that felt cool. And there was there were moments like that truly you were like, oh, this is what Super Hot could have been. And again, do you like the bombacity of a blockbuster movie, or do you like the simple elegance of timeless sci-fi? And that might be your defining point between which one. Because if you think about it, Super Hot came out God, at least 6 years ago, more than that probably.
Yeah. Do you remember there was this movie? I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but there was this movie with Christian Bale, and it was sort of set in the future, and it had almost Matrix style fight scenes, like gun choreography. Super Hot reminded me of that movie, and I don't remember the name of it right now. So unless you know what I'm talking about, it'll that's not going to work. But actually, also, sorry, before you get back to the final thing on action here, one thing that did disappoint me a little bit. You have the two directors that you choose from. It's just the voice.
Yeah, one's angry and one's supportive. Like,
I don't care.
I wanted that to change the difficulty.
The director would actually impact the gameplay, but it's just the voice. I don't care about the voice. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. That was a missed opportunity. That should have been something that, like change the difficulty level or something like that.
One of them could have been more sadistic or something, throwing more challenges at you or raising the stakes and demanding that you do things a little different or in a more, I don't know. It is a waste of opportunity.
Maybe there's a time limit on you when you like the stricter director is, or maybe you can only go back and do a scene a certain number of times before you're fired or something like that. Like there's definitely a way that the personality of those directors could have impacted the game quite easily. Absolutely. And thematically as well. Yeah,
massively wasted opportunity there.
So I think after this conversation, I'm quite happy to say Super Hot 2, Action Hero 7.5 Derivative. And there, I think we can leave that one there.
We can leave that one there. Before we totally depart the world of Super Hot, you do know that there's a game supposedly coming out called Ultra Cold, I think it's called, or something
it's just
like
called
that.
Cold. Just Cold.
Are you sure it's called Cold, not Ultra Cold or something? I thought it was called Ultra Cold or something like that.
I'm pretty sure.
And it's supposed to have like reverse mechanics of Super Hot, essentially. So, but there you go. Anyway,
there was another game that I had on Pico actually. That is, again, it's supposed to be reverse mechanics of Super Hot, but with a bow and arrow. And it was okay. Like it was, I don't know, a solid 6.5. It was enjoyable in the same kind of ways. It just wasn't quite as polished. It didn't offer quite as much. But there are other people riffing on it. But what I respect is the people riffing on it are going, how can I take this and flip it on its head? Fast Travel Game just said, hey, can I buy your thing? Can I paint it orange instead of white?
Color by numbers, Super Hot.
Yeah. Okay. Can we put that in the review? Like that can be the tagline.
Color by numbers. Yeah.
Well, before we run out of time, I'm now going to.
I am Cat.
No, you're not. I am.
Okay.
I am Cat. Right. So, I Am Cat's a weird one because there are two parts to the coverage of I Am Cat, because I cannot have a discussion around this game without literally having a discussion around what the fuck. Like, honestly, pardon my abrasive language, but I Am Cat has consistently been in the top 3 best-selling games on the Quest platform for months now. Now, it is only just released its full version of the game. So it was an early access, one-level game that had over 10,000 positive reviews on the store and was selling like hotcakes. And I've never understood why. So I played the original, like the early access version, and I thought it was cute. I was going to let my kid have a go of it, but it was a little bit buggy. And I remember saying to Omar, yeah, when this is done, when they finish it, I bet it's going to be good. And so now they have finished it. And the question remains, is it good? And the answer absolutely is yes, it is, depending on who you are. And this is the thing that I just don't understand about its dominance on the platform and how they've managed to achieve this, because it is a wonderful kids game. The full version has 4 levels that you can play. Each one of them gives you multiple, when I say levels, like multiple stories, up and down stories. So for our audio listeners, I'm trying to communicate that it is a verticality. That's the word I'm looking for. That it gives you. And you embody a little cat, a nice little kitty, and you start off in grandma's home. And you've got a home, and you can either go upstairs, or you can jump up the bookshelves, or you can jump around. And you, at first, I used to think, okay, it's just a physics sandbox with Gorilla Tag light controls. And that's really reductive. It's a really reductive way of looking at it. So each level gives you a set of missions that you need to accomplish, whether that be get to a really hard to reach place or, the chaos of the real kitty. So knock all the flower pots off the shelves and you have to get around like jumping on the bookshelves to get to the flower pots and knock them down. As you progress through the game, you get access to a garage, a mechanics area, and you basically have to fix a car as a cat, which is really fun. There's the butcher's shop. There is the street, and you get out on the street, and the street's actually quite an expansive level. And again, it's got all this great verticality. And within each one of these locations, you just get enough missions to, I think I completed 2 of them in around 30 minutes each. And that was with me not stopping to play mini games. That was me actually moving my way through, okay, now do this mission, like achieve these objectives. For a kid playing it, you'd barely need to do the objectives because you can, if you want, you can just harass the human beings. Each level has a grown-up that walks around it. And weirdly, your kitty power, you can knock them out, for example. And they've got this ability so you can press the grip button and your claws come out and you can grab things. It's a bit of a stretch in terms of this role play of the cat, but it's fun because you'll walk around and be like, hang on a second, is that a set of clippers? So I'm going to knock this guy out. I'm going to take his hat off him, and then I'm going to shave his head while he's asleep. And you can do that. You can be a cat who just totally messes with everybody for fun. And there's some real charm to that. The controls at first I found horrendous. I love arm-based movement. Like I really do. I play Gorilla Tag's not my favorite, but Monkey Do, Underdogs, like Sprint Vector. So many games where you use your arms to move.
Rainbow.
Oh yeah, No More Rainbows. Again, that was one.
No More Rainbows is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm absolutely cool with that movement style. And this is going to be hard because I have to hold this. But it took me so long to realize as a cat, you're not the same as a monkey that's taking these giant swings. If you do that, every time you go back, you get caught on the backswing. Like your claws get stuck in the thing. And so you don't move forward. You find yourself kind of like this. What you have to do is little kitty paws. Little kitty paws. And once you get the hang of that's how you're supposed to move is little kitty paws or double paw jumps. And then you start to go, oh, okay, I can really cover some ground. And that's when it started to be like a platformer as well. And again, No More Rainbows. I'm so glad you brought that up because I really felt a parity in some of the movement to No More Rainbows as you're like, okay, I want to get up there. How the hell do I get up there? And you can map out a route and you're like, okay, it takes real precision, timing, skill, like to get from that ledge to that ledge, knock all of the things off the shelf so you can walk to the end and then jump up to the spot that's almost impossible to reach. It's a really cool kids game. Now, in terms of like where we would probably score it is, if you're buying it for your kid, if it's for a younger person who is going to just spend some time in it, this is 8-ish sort of level. If not, it could punch a little bit above that. The street level is really cool. Like it's really big. They all kind of interlink in interesting ways. There's a lot to do in it. And one of the things I will say is on the roadmap. So when you go in to select which of the levels you want to play, there's a big map and it already shows you 5 other levels that are coming soon. So they're already looking at doubling the amount of content that they've got here. So if you're buying this for a kid to play, like this is a solid kids title. Again, this would go on somewhere, I'm not sure where, on my best games for kids to play.
For kids. Yeah.
If you're an adult, if you're like Omar, if you're me, I won't play it again. Like it's one of those ones where I played it. I had a good bit of fun. I completed 2 levels and I explored the other 2 levels. I probably played about 3 hours and I did not have a bad time. Sorry, Omar, you look like you're about to say something.
I wanted to ask you something because we just mentioned No More Rainbows, which we are adults and we really, really, really enjoyed as adults. But now I'm hearing you say I Am Cat. You made some similar, you mentioned some similarities with that, but then you said not really for adults. So now I'm wondering, what's the difference here that makes No More Rainbows a game that as an adult you're really enjoyed playing, but maybe not so much I Am Cat that you wouldn't?
Well, that's a great question, Omar. Thanks for asking. No More Rainbows is a platformer, and it has that Machiavellian difficulty of a true platformer. Not right from the start, but the level design is up there with like a great Mario based game. It is different mechanics, but like it is a platformer, and everything it is doing is based on being a platformer. So to that end, it gives you that nostalgic feeling of someone who probably grew up playing platformers, because that was the prevalent game style back in the day. And there's just like it's a lot more challenging. It's a lot more difficult. It's definitely something that, like, my daughter, for example, has tried No More Rainbows, effectively enjoyed it, but found it really hard and kind of put it down. I Am Cat, however, gives you platform elements, but you can still just mess around in it. You can still just have fun being a cat, chasing mechanical mice, doing all sorts of bits and bobs, if you don't feel like doing the actual mission structures. Also, even the more challenging of the mission structures are not that challenging. Like, they're not, like, there were levels of No More Rainbows that had me pulling my hair out. I'm bald, everybody. Whereas I Am Cat, it was like, it's a fun, like, you know.
The difficulty is more optional, is what you're saying. It's essentially optional.
It's not even difficult, is what it is. Like, okay. The difficulty is mild, is what it is. It's more like the physics at play in I Am Cat is excellent. Like, it's really it's well balanced between being cartoony and realistic. Like, it doesn't have to operate like the real world. I get it. A cat can't pick up a hammer and break a glass window, but in this game you can. But it's also like, it's got a real sense of physics where, like, it wobbles around a little bit and you have to do the motion kind of correctly. So yeah, I think that it aims itself at being a kid's game in the level of difficulty and the complexity of the content that it's giving you. Whereas No More Rainbows absolutely was like a platformer for platform gamers, and it still is one of the best games that's on the Quest, as far as I'm concerned.
Does I Am Cat have any multiplayer or online aspects?
No, nothing like that at all. It really is just you pottering around, and in some ways I think that's good. I bet like they must be millionaires by now, and I think it's a really safe space. Like, I could let my daughter have half an hour playing this game, knowing that she's just going to be pottering about as a little kitty cat, and I don't have to police online shenanigans and things like that. I do think, though, with the amount of money that they're making from this thing, that surely there's a multiplayer version that they could make. Surely there's some creative thing they could do with those mechanics and that groundswell of adoration, because the I Am Cat community is huge, man. Like, people love this game, and look, fine. Like, I want to hate it. There's part of me, like this old grunge 90s kid that's like, you know, oh, you think that's cool because everyone else thinks it's cool. I'm too cool to like that. But it is the early access version wasn't complete. It wasn't finished, and it just wasn't good enough, I think, to get what it became. But this, the full release version, with more to come and 4 fully fledged levels, like, this is a proper 8 out of 10 game for a child.
Interesting.
So there you go. I Am Cat. Like, there's part of me that wants to talk more about what shady marketing techniques, because they were the first ones to do this thing, which later developers have told me is against the terms of service. But how they managed to promote the game was they had a button inside the game that said, would you like to leave a rating, and you can get a cosmetic. Now, from what I understand, the meta terms of service for developers states that you cannot offer an incentive within your game that for a review that affects the gameplay. But a cosmetic,
now they've taken that out, right?
Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's absolutely not there anymore. But by the time they took that out, they had 10,000 positive reviews.
10,000 reviews.
And then when you're a kid looking for a new game and you see this funny I Am Cat game and you see 10,000 people have given it a 5-star review, that creates a swell that then starts getting a particular breed of content creators, YouTubers, that focus on I Am Cat content, which then creates more of a swell. And these guys are minting it now.
They triggered an avalanche.
They did. And you know what? I don't begrudge them that. Like, you know, VR, it's a well-polished, well-made VR game. that is hitting a niche with its market that is not me, but I do not begrudge any developer getting ridiculously wealthy from producing a VR game. Now all they need to do is like another Axiom, who are the creators of Gorilla Tag, take all those millions and put them back into the next title, spiritual successor. We're allowed. We're all saying that now. Echo VR 2.
I am Kangaroo.
I am Kangaroo. Just to clarify, though, what I was saying is another Axiom are making a game that takes a lot of the elements of Gorilla Tag and kind of mashes them a little bit with Echo VR into something called Orion Drift, which is not available yet, but I have both eyes firmly on that one.
Cool.
Now, my sweet friend Omar, we've come to the end of our majestic episode. Oh, wait, do you want to do a little bit about Songbird, and then we can see if we can hack it up? I've got 9.5 minutes left in my day.
I could try to do a 1 minute review of, or 1 minute impressions, I should say, of Songbird.
Like you did. You did that really successful for something else recently. So yeah, let's do that.
What was it for? I don't remember.
Someone in the comments remind us.
Someone in the comments remind us, because we're both mindless, brainless, fever, cold people.
Yeah, I'm running a fever. It's not my fault. Nothing's my fault.
Nothing's your fault. Okay, so Songbird is quite simply a karaoke game. It's there for karaoke. Now, I am not generally a karaoke fan. It's just not my sort of thing. I did one time in my life actually do karaoke, and apparently when I did it very well, but also because I picked tracks, Guns N' Roses tracks that I really like screaming out. But apparently I did a good job. But it's a karaoke game, so it's set in a very colorful, very childlike, just very, very friendly, cozy sort of atmosphere. You've got a garden, you've got flowers, you've got things flying around. The atmosphere of it is very, very cute. And you sing into the Quest's native built-in microphone, and the game sort of measures your singing compared to where it's supposed to be pitch-wise with the track itself, with the singing in the track itself, and it scores you accordingly. One of the unusual things that I found about it when it comes to karaoke is that you hear the vocalist in the original song, so it just kind of feels it feels weird. I'm not like, I think karaoke, almost all karaoke that I know about, you get the music only track and you're singing on top of it and you're only hearing yourself. Here you're basically you're hearing the vocalist, you're hearing the full song as it was released, and you're singing on top of it. I don't know if that's a technical issue that they couldn't deal with. Maybe because in karaoke you've got a microphone and you're hearing yourself loud with a little bit of reverb, so it fits better into the music. Maybe here they couldn't route the audio from the microphone straight back into your ears in a way that you hear well enough for it to make sense. I'm not sure, or if that's a licensing issue. I have no clue. In terms of licensing, the other major thing to mention about the game is that it doesn't really have a large selection. There's like 40 or 50 tracks, which means that chances are you're maybe going to like or really love 2 or 3 of those tracks, just by the statistics of music, like it's basically 40 or 50 tracks. You've got something like, like the tracks that I recognized, for better or worse, were like, A Kiss from a Rose by Seal, and just because why not, they've got, they rickroll you in there. So you've got Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. There's maybe a couple of lesser known tracks, but from famous artists. So you've got like I think there's a Billie Eilish track, but it's not one that Billie Eilish fans like. It's not one of the favorite Billie Eilish tracks. So they've done that sort of thing where they've got famous artists, but they're B tracks sort of things to populate the playlist. So you've got 40 tracks. I think the biggest issues with the game is that you're hearing the melody while you're singing, you're hearing the vocals, and again, it's a scarcity of choice. You've got 40, 50 tracks, which means you're going to be enjoying a few of them. It's so, that's all I can say about it for now, really.
I mean, that's always the way with any of the rhythm games, music games. Every 40 or 50 tracks is actually okay. And if you are lucky enough to like 10 of them, then I think on average, you're actually doing pretty well. I remember when Pistol Whip released, it released with 10 songs, and I liked 3 of them. And I was like, that's an okay average.
But I would dispute that logic, because when it comes to something like Beat Saber, the joy is in the movement, and if the maps are if the levels are mapped well, you enjoy the movement even if you don't like the song. With Pistol Whip, you're enjoying the shooting and all that, and the twisting and turning and ducking and weaving between the bullets, you know. So there's something about it you're enjoying other than the music. But with Songbird, all you're doing is singing. If you don't like those songs, there's nothing else to enjoy about them.
And again, for the average person, if they're not in your range, if it's not a song that you sing particularly well,
oh, you're done for.
It's not going to work.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I have a terrible singing voice, which is why when you gave me access to Songbird, I never even clicked on the link. I was just like, no, we don't need that. No.
Yeah.
Well, sweet gamers, sweet viewers, sweet Omar, sweet all, sweet, sweet. I need to go, but I do want to do our usual quick roundup. We've got 4 minutes on the clock, and I was just looking through the comments, and you'll never guess. It is, I would say, the 9 people that you would expect on our last episode. So I think rather than answering very specific questions, just big shouts out, because doing the podcast has been really interesting for us, and I think we've been a little unsure about what sort of reception we were going to get, about how many views equal success when it comes to doing a podcast, because it's actually turned out to be a bit more work than at least I thought it was going to be. And seeing that there's a few of you that write into the comments every single time, it really makes me personally sort of think, well, this is good. Like, people actually do enjoy the work that we're doing. If you're a listener who doesn't like to comment, it wouldn't be a bad thing if you just popped in and said good job, or gave us a thumbs up or something, because it helps us know whether or not we should continue doing this, or if we'd be better spending our time doing something else. But so the Master Caesar, Corvorn, Stuart Burns, hello. I mean, Stuart, we could actually do that whole episode on resolution games. I totally agree with you there. We've got Black Market Honey. We've got Super McFluffy Pants, who I'm beginning to think that Super McFluffy Pants is one of these I Am Cat content creators, or an I Am Cat aficionado, because Super McFluffy Pants mentions the cats a lot. Mm-hmm. What's going on with that, Super McFluffy Pants? Lord Val from Hell is in there. Peter Smith, you're new. Hi, Peter Smith. It's nice to see you. Telling us about Laser Thief, which is interesting because there's a Laser Dance.
Laser Dance and Laser Thief. We need to do a head-to-head.
Head-to-head when eventually next year, I think early 2025, we're expecting to see Laser Dance, so we can see which one does the best, dealing with the constant problem of spatial drift, which is something that about my only criticism of Spatial Ops the other day. Simplex or Simplex PL, good to see you, Simplex, as well. Casey Ajmelia, if you could phonetically spell out your name in the comments for me so I don't have to bumble it so terribly. You were looking forward to hearing our thoughts on I Am Cat. I hope I've not disappointed you. I didn't want to be scathing when it's actually kind of nice, but I did also want to be scathing. That seems to be our oeuvre. Everyone comes for the scathe. Who else? Chris Phobia, who thinks that I am cool without any bass? All caps. All caps. That's the way to get our attention. Praise us in all caps. So, guys, I say guys in the non-gendered version, peoples, gamers, folk. Thank you for stopping by. I think we are still making our decision whether or not we can get one more of these in this calendar year. It may be that we have to break and come back to it at another time because life is getting very hectic. As I mentioned at the top of this, I've got, for the first time ever, my entire family, brother, parents, nephews, the whole shebang, we're all going to be together for the festive season, and gaming is going to have to take a bit of a back burner. So,
but we are preparing a couple of Christmas videos.
Indeed, we are. We have a range of best of sort of things. Again, if you have friends that are getting it, like everybody who's watching this is probably watching this because you're VR veterans at this point. But if you have friends that are about to get VR this holiday season, possibly for the first time, you make sure you point them our way. We're going to have some good stuff for them, and we'll have some good stuff for you as well. Our loyal, can I say fans? Do you think they're fans? Our loyal listeners, watchers, viewers.
I mean, we could tell them what the 2 videos are. That, you know, for if somebody is interested in keeping an eye out for those.
No, because then they won't, like, if it's not for them, they won't come back for it. It could be anything. It could be exactly what you have always been waiting for.
Only revealing the content would be spoilerish, but the actual subject of the videos would not be.
All right. Well, what are these videos?
Well, we're going to have one video that basically goes through the different genres of VR games and our best choices within each genre. So that's one. And that's, I suppose, suitable for veterans who may have missed some titles or want to explore different genres, but want to make sure they get a good start in a genre they're not used to. And then the other one is going to be the one where we're focusing on games that children would enjoy. We did one of those a while back, and it's been actually a quite popular video, but it's pretty out of date right now. We did it like I think 3 or 4 years ago, so I'm sure there are many new games that would be good for children to play that we could talk about. So there's one focused on children, both in terms of games that children would enjoy, something like I Am Cat, but also we're going to focus as well on games that are really fun for adults to play, for parents to play with their children. So it'll be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So hopefully that should, bring a lot of VR Christmas joy, I suppose.
Ho, 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 ho.
Oh, oh,
And
oh.
on that note, I'm going to have to make a very hasty retreat. It's been a pleasure talking to you again, Omar. It's been a pleasure talking to you, sweet viewer. And until next time, happy gaming.
Bye-bye.